It is a glorious day. The Fantastic Four have been missing for years. In their absence, Doom has played the hero, much to the dismay of that dolt Stark. Now it is time to rid myself of that facade and take my place as ruler of Earth. That and to make sure the film rights for the Fantastic Four never revert back to Marvel Studios. Julian McMahon was a fantastic Doom, and the world knows it. Who dares to call Doom during his opening monologue?
Mr. Von Doom?
Yes?
We at Marvel Studios regret to inform you that despite your best efforts to quash the acquisition of Fox, Disney has cut a deal with the studio and we may indeed see the Fantastic Four take their rightful place amongst the likes of the Avengers and Spider-Man in the MCU. Mr. Richards also wanted me to tell you that you will be shelved for the time being because the audience demands a Galactus that isn't a cloud. They apparently had enough of Doom thanks to McMahon and whatever that thing was in Fan 4 Stick. Take care.
Richards! Not a hoax, not a dream, not an imaginary story. Marvel's first family is back together again after what seems like ages. The last time I talked about them on this show was during the Secret Wars number 9 review, which ended with the Fantastic Four putting realities back together again after a very divisive crossover event. While Reed, Sue, and the kids were cleaning up the mess Doom made, Ben and Johnny enjoyed starring in a comic called Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Human Torch. The comic was alright for what it was. And what was it? Oh, just a way to put the band back together, if you ask me. Personally, I think Johnny was better written in Uncanny Avengers. Still, it was nice to see half of the Fantastic Four in action. I'm not saying it was bad. It was just kind of there. Sort of like the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies now that I think about it. Let's put the past behind us. The Fantastic Four are finally whole after what seems like ages. Dan Slott, the writer who gave us Spider-Verse and the Superior Spider-Man, has switched over from Spidey to take on the world's greatest comic magazine. For those who don't know, the Fantastic Four are Marvel's first family, as I've said twice already, I think. First appearing in 1961 in a comic by the legendary team of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. For almost 60 years, they were never really the traditional superhero team. They'd explored the unknown, and despite bickering amongst themselves, they were a family. Then again, that's what families do, right? Think of them as Marvel's Doctor Who. That's how I've always seen them. Granted, they first appeared a good 2 years before Doctor Who rocked British airwaves. The Doctor Who analogy works. The Four are a family of explorers who protect the planet using the powers they received from cosmic rays. Reed is the elastic scientist, and is basically the smartest person in any room he enters in, much to the dismay of his old college rival, Dr. Doom. Sue is the heart and the compassionate one. She is also probably the strongest member of the team. Susie doesn't just turn invisible and generate force fields. She's a lot tougher than she appears. You want to see a mama bear? Look no further than Reed's better half. Johnny is the hot-headed Joker with the ability to become a Human Torch, and he is Sue's younger brother. Though he can be reckless, he can still be counted on by his friends and family. And finally, there's the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing. Ben sees himself as a monster, even though he has a good heart. Together they make up a team of not just superheroes, but a family of explorers. Now that the intro is out of the way, let's see what the FF are up to in Fantastic Four number 1. The cover is decent as far as covers go. I've always liked the FF covers stating, "The world's greatest comic magazine." That isn't egotistical, really. The Fantastic Four is the comic that launched the Marvel Universe. I dare say, without the success of the FF, we wouldn't be enjoying the characters we enjoy today. They started it all. Enough of me gushing. I like how we have the team in various action poses. It's decent. But let's compare them to other FF number 1 covers real quick. Awesome homage. Nothing beats a classic. This cover has a lot to live up to, I can tell you that much. Our story begins with the ever-loving blue-eyed thing and the hot-headed Human Torch talking about the team in caption boxes as we see a big picture of the four on the page. Some call them superheroes, some call them Imaginauts. There's only so many ways you can describe this team. The word menace has been tossed around a lot these days. Usually it comes from a guy called J. Jonah Jameson. I wouldn't put anything into it. He thinks everybody's a menace. Ben sums it up by saying that first and foremost, the team is a family. That's true. That's always been the case. We turn the page and see Ben walking with his girlfriend, blind sculptress Alicia Masters. She's holding a kitty. If I hold the image here for a few seconds, my hit should increase 1,000-fold. See? I told you. The internet never fails. Elsewhere, Johnny is walking with the team's friend, Wyatt Wingfoot. Johnny is wearing a Mets jersey. I'll forgive him. This time. Looks like Ben and Alicia are checking out a box full of kittens in New York. I hear Andrew Lloyd Webber wants to make a musical about you on Broadway. Ben is practically covered by them here. That's right, keep the hits coming. All in all, it seems like an ordinary day for Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm. Impromptu autograph sessions, street kittens, what could possibly go wrong? Famous last words in the Marvel Universe. An unseen figure sets off a flare gun and the fire spells Fantastic Four in the sky. The crowd below is ecstatic, and at the Mets game, the announcer brings the flare to the Torch's attention. Can you imagine how annoyed the baseball players are? Come on guys, we have one shot at getting into the World Series. Pay attention to us. Please? Johnny is naturally excited about the prospect of seeing his brother-in-law and sister again. Wyatt asks if it means what he thinks it means. Duty calls, and the Torch flies off while saying his catchphrase. The FF are back. Or so it seems. Yes, pay attention to the flaming man flying over the stadium. Umpire, can we do something about this? Across town, Ben is a little skeptical. He tells the cat lady that they're done, and Alicia wants to know what happened. She is blind after all, not deaf. She heard what the people were saying. Ben wants her to drop it, and she sits on a bench demanding to talk to him. He apologizes and explains that he has something important to tell her. Johnny streaks through the city like a flaming hot comet. The people of New York are all excited. Johnny, on the other hand, is listing who the challenge could be. Diablo, Psycho Man, a giant crazy space baby with loudspeakers on his head. Yes, that happened. Early Fantastic Four comics were weird. They're excited over a flaming man flying around the city, but the second one of the X-Men shows up, they cast stones. Let's see how it is. Ben explains to Alicia that it's not them. They need to stop hoping for some sort of miracle. Alicia reminds them that it's Reed and Sue. They always beat the odds. Ben sighs. Not this time. After the last adventure, Reed and Sue are gone for good, and whoever set the flare off was not them. Sure enough it wasn't, as Johnny encounters the Yancey Street Gang, a gang of kids who constantly tormented Ben. Long story. Johnny confronts the gang on the roof. Apparently it was just a prank. Johnny just stands there, scowling at the two. Unhappy Torch is unhappy. A reporter discusses the prank and explains a bit about the Fantastic Four's history and how the prank came at a bad time. It's the anniversary of the FF's first appearance, and half of the team are missing in action. The next page has various members of the team discuss the prank. Medusa of the Inhumans is hopeful Sue and the others return home someday. Crystal worries about Ben and Johnny. Crystal and Johnny used to date, you know. Then she fell for the former son of Magneto. Luke Cage feels more for the kids, and it makes him more determined to keep his child away from that life. Sweet Christmas, Luke. Tell us how you really feel. Jennifer Walters, the sensational She-Hulk, explained that it's just a misdemeanor and that she'll be representing the boys. However, a trial may not be happening, as at the station, Jen is meeting with the police. Johnny wants the punks tried as adults, and Jennifer assures him that no harm was done, and that they were just dumb kids. She was hired to defend them by Ben, who was also dropping the charges, aside from breaking and entering. The kids got the flare gun from someone who had a bunch of the FF stuff stored on Yancey Street. Ben visits him, and recounts one of the team's last adventures together. I feel a flashback coming on. Insert wavy effects here. The Fantastic Four are cruising around with some alien lady. She has a scepter that needs to be powered up so a path can be seen. Okay, fine. One catch. It's not powered by anything the FF can do by themselves. It's powered by singing. Don't look at me. This is normal Fantastic Four stuff as far as I'm concerned. At least everyone is thinking the same thing you probably are. It's silly. Reed, however, puts a scientific spin on it, and everyone eventually agrees that Johnny is the best singer of the group. Did these people not watch the 90s cartoon? Winner of American Idol? He isn't. Susan is reluctant at first, and eventually she allows her brother to sing. He ends up singing Dr. Shane, and the music-powered staff is fully charged. I can't believe I'm describing this. Like I said, this is normal Fantastic Four stuff, but I think this is pushing it. I half expect some weird imagery from a 70s movie or something. The team is at the threshold, and even Alicia can see the light. The alien lady explains that sometimes people see with their heart. That's really corny, lady. Finally, the team arrives in New York, and the flashback ends. Before the weird alien lady left, she gave Ben a gift, a magic gem that would help him find his way home if he ever felt lost. It turns out he had been lost for a while without his family, and without hope. However, today he saw a sign, and now he knows what he really has to do. He's ready for his next big adventure. The scene shifts to Alicia's apartment, and there's a knock at the door. Ben shows up and is already down on one knee. He pours his guts out to his girlfriend and asks her to marry him, to which she says yes, before he can actually finish asking. Marvel, you gonna make that marriage stick? You did such a great job with that Kitty and Colossus marriage from a few months ago. Later that night, the Torch shows up at Alicia's apartment building, and the happy couple want Johnny to be the first to hear the news. Ben also wants him to be his best man. Johnny takes it about as well as you'd expect. He said no. Johnny explains that everything is all wrong. Reed should be Ben's best man. You might think he's acting like a child, but the hothead has a point. Ben gets in his face about spoiling the moment, and Johnny yells at him about how Ben has given up looking for Reed, Sue, and the kids. Alicia tries to tell everyone to calm down, and Johnny takes off. It just goes to show that 9 times out of 10, the comic relief is the most sensitive member of the team. In a truly heartfelt moment, the Torch flies off calling for Reed. He knows he's out there because he's the world's greatest royal smart person. He wants a sign that he'll be back, and that everything will be okay. A few panels of silence. My heart. Ow. The Torch makes his way back to Ben and Alicia, and is visibly upset. His eyes water as he approaches his dear friends. He says, "It's true, isn't it?" Ben takes his friend by the shoulder and is sorry as the three go in for a group hug. Is this the end? Could the Fantastic Four really be gone? Please, this book is called The Fantastic Four, not The Terrific Two. Elsewhere in time and space, Reed is tinkering with a strange device. Sue asks if this is going to work. It seems impossible. Reed replies, "Do you believe in me?" She does, and that's why he can do the impossible. Back on Earth, a flash of light begins to flood the city. We see Ben and the gang react first, then Medusa and Crystal, then Wyatt and Luke Cage. Why Spider-Man is left out of this montage is beyond me. Dan, you could have put him in there, you know. Well, don't worry, he's in the next issue. Spoilers. Everyone is reacting positively to a sign, and Johnny is all smiles. It's about damn time indeed. We go into space, and above the planet we see a giant 4 symbol as our comic ends. That's a bit much, Reed, but we'll take it. Let's take a closer look at this comic. At first glance, the comic paints Johnny in a negative light. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said before, he comes off as sort of childish. I think you'd have to understand where he's coming from. Johnny is the youngest member of the Fantastic Four. He, like Spidey, was a teenager when he first started out, and as such, he had grown really attached to Reed, and of course there's his older sister, Susan. So naturally, Slott plays into those feelings he has, and writes them as a sort of powder keg of emotions. He's always been a bit of a hothead, as writers before have established. Pun definitely intended. And like I said earlier, even the comic relief tends to be the most sensitive member of any group. Kudos to Slott for bringing that out of Johnny, so new readers can sort of see what makes the torch tick. On the outside, he is outgoing and brash. He still cares very deeply for his friends, and it shows in this comic. This is all in contrast with how Ben is dealing with things. He is attempting to move on with his life since he proposed to Alicia, and for now has accepted the fate of his best friend and his wife. Marvel has confirmed that at least this wedding will take place. Sorry, Colossus and Shadowcat shippers. Then again, it isn't a total loss. Gambit and Rogue got married instead. Anyway, people deal with grief differently. Some people act out like Johnny. Others close their hearts and try to move on like Ben. Johnny may be the comic relief of the Fantastic Four, but it's Ben who is the heart. Imagine that. The big orange rock monster is the heart of the team. I do like how Slott is splitting how the two react to everything. In my experience reading Slott's work on Spidey, he's always been good at character moments. We'll see soon enough how he handles the action. The Fantastic Four has always been one of my favorite comics. The book started the Marvel Universe, and the characters set the tone for how future characters would be handled. They may be heroes, they may be explorers, they are still all too human, and it is that framework that set the stage for every Marvel hero writers and artists have produced. I'm not bragging, it's a fact. It's good to see the Fantastic Four back in action after what seems like ages. If you're a fan of Slott's work on Spidey, check it out. His take on the FF seems almost familiar to other writers' work, and he may offer a spin on things that may surprise you. If you're a longtime fan of the team, you'll appreciate the references to the team's past, and how the characterization is respectfully handled. No one is really out of character here, and taking the reins of a cornerstone book like the FF is no easy task. There's a lot to live up to, and I'm sure Dan Slott is up to the task of writing the world's greatest comic magazine. With all that said, I'm glad that the Fantastic Four are back in action. Marvel's first family's return was a long time coming. Let's see what Dan Slott has to offer, and I'll see you in the funny pages.